Record. All right, prosody is the patterns of rhythm and sound used in poetry. The patterns of rhythm and sound. And that is basically the entire poem, right? When you read a whole poem, there is prosody there. So you're just, when you say you're paying attention to the prosody of the poem, you're paying attention to like the sound of it, the actual words themselves, not just the meaning or the themes. All right, scansion is how you figure out the prosody. So scansion is the action of scanning a line of verse to determine its rhythm. The action of scanning a line of verse to determine its rhythm. So it's not obvious to people, unless they've been studying poetry for years and years, the prosody of the poem. You scan the poem, and scan, it's got a bad rap to it, because usually when your teachers say scan this, they mean read it quickly, right? That's like the meaning of the word scan. Scansion is specifically for poetry, how to read a poem, and scansion takes a lot longer than just reading it. So that sounds counterintuitive, but if I were to say scan the poem, what I mean is figure out all of the rhythm and sounds in that poem. So scanning a poem is basically close reading a poem. And scansion is that action. Okay, meter, here we go, meter, third one down. A stressed / unstressed syllabic pattern. Stressed / unstressed syllabic, like syllables, syllabic. Like that. Syllabic pattern. So it is a sound pattern that gives poetry a rhythmical and melodious sound. I'm going to say that one again. A stressed / unstressed syllabic pattern. And it's a sound pattern that gives poetry a rhythmical sound. It makes it sound melodious. Yes, Sally Rose.
How do you figure out the syllables in words and stuff?
So I actually do not know how to teach that. Because it's like you feel it, right? So like Whitney is my name. Whitney or up. Whitney or up. It's like the words that you can clap on. Right? So Allie Rose. Allie Rose.
Okay.
Celeste. Right?
Did you have to do speech therapy at any point?
Yeah,
Because you have to learn how to count your syllables in speech therapy.
Yeah, so it's like, how do they explain it? Because I have
Every
never
time
learned
your
how
mouth opens, you have to like Ella. It's 2 syllables.
Ella.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's like when your mouth, yeah, it's a linguistic thing. So it's when your mouth closes, that's one syllable. But it's basically how you can clap a word out. So like intolerable, try it. Intolerable.
The trauma I have from having to do that with my name 50.
Okay, and here is how you figure out. You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, so stress, that's the next word. That's when the emphasis falls on certain syllables. So a stressed syllable is an emphasized syllable. And someone last year taught me the best way to teach this, I think. Imagine you have a dog that is named a certain thing. Imagine your dog is named Intolerable. How would you call for that dog? If you were to extend it, like my dog's name is Marty, and we'd be like, Marty, you know? How would you say intolerable if your dog's name is Intolerable?
Intolerable.
Yeah, so which one did you emphasize? The tall, right? Here, I'll write it out.
Oh my god, I know this stuff because of my speech.
Ooh, I don't know how to spell intolerable. Does it have 2 L's here?
Yeah.
No,
it's
no,
just
no,
Okay,
no, no.
so we've got intolerable. It's a very long word. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 syllables. And when you said it out loud, you stretched out one of those. Which one did you stretch?
Oh,
So you would put,
the thingy.
yes, that is the sign for a stress, and it's not on my video here. Let me see. That is a sign for a stress. So right on the syllables that have the stress, if you were scanning the poem, you would write that syllable. Intolerable, and the rest kind of falls off, right? And so that would be, and this is not on your sheet, it's just the opposite of stressed syllable, an unstressed syllable. So let's try it with a different word, like let's say your dog's name is breakfast.
Breakfast.
How would you say it? Yeah.
Breakfast.
Breakfast.
There's not
Breakfast, right? Breakfast. Breakfast. Sounds weird. What do you eat? What do you eat? Breakfast, right? And feel how your mouth kind of like lets that word go. Breakfast. Whitney, like Emberly. A lot of our names have the first syllable. Allie, right? So it's that first syllable is stressed. Let's think of one that has a second syllable stressed. Because. If your dog's name was because, would you say because? No. How would you call for your dog if your dog's name was because? Yeah. Because. Yeah, exactly. So the emphasis is then on that second syllable.
Okay. So I did that test last night and I was like, I don't understand syllables.
Oh, yeah. So it's like you break it up into the different parts when you're opening your mouth, and then you can see which syllables have the stress. I do the trick sometimes where I try to say the dog name if I can't remember, because sometimes as you're doing scansion, you start trying to fit words into a certain pattern that aren't natural. But poetry scansion is always following rhythmic patterns that are natural to the English language. Yes.
Usually what's like rhetorical purpose of having stressed syllables?
There's going to be different rhetorical purposes depending on the situation. Yeah. So
like sometimes the way it rolls off your tongue is just meant to so you call attention to it, or?
yes. So I think that the poet sometimes will choose specific words that would normally have stress to it to emphasize certain ideas in that poem in favor of others. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up the thing.
The form?
Yes. No, the what's it called? Test thing.
I don't know. Did I give you a test last
I
night?
don't know.
Oh, did the multiple choice have a question about meter?
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, so it
Also,
says how many?
Yeah.
So it says how many? Sorry, I'm hurrying. In the third stanza, the first 3 lines contain how many stressed syllables? So a nun demure of lowly port.
All right, let's do it. A nun demure.
Yes. Of lowly port.
Lowly port. Okay, so let's divide that into syllables first.
A nun.
A nun. Good. Demure is 2.
Wait, wouldn't nun be 2? A nun. Nun.
Do you say it that way? No.
Nun.
No, when you say it out loud, you say none.
Okay.
Yeah. None. Demure. Of how many syllables does lowly have?
2. And then port.
Lowly port. Good. Okay, so it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 syllables in it, right? And let's try to mark the stresses here. Okay, let's start with the word with 2 because that makes it kind of easy to branch off of. So you say if your dog's name is Demure, how would you yell for him? Demure. Demure. Yeah, so we know that one's stressed. This is the sign for unstressed. It's a little U, and this is running out. So we know that that's unstressed and stressed. And when you say a nun demure of lonely port, does it sound like it's got like a kind of rhythmic quality to it? Yeah. A nun demure of lonely ports. Yeah, it kind of feels like sing-songy, right? So it's probably then going to happen that it repeats this stress. That's how they create that sing-songy kind of feel to it. So, a nun. Would you stress, which one would you stress of a nun? Which word stress? Brooklyn? Yes, good.
Also, it kind of feels like if someone, like a pirate or someone, was like walking with like a peg leg, just like limping.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like a pirate limping. A nun demure of lowly port. And that's how you do stress. So if you say how many stress syllables does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Tetrameter. We'll get there in a second.
Okay, wait. But there were 2 more lines after that.
Okay.
It was asking.
Oh, and it was for the stanza? It said how many stress lines are in the stanza or in the line?
There's 3 out of the 3 lines.
Okay.
And it said it had 4, but there's 3.
Oh, it's asking you about the pattern. It's saying what's the pattern here? How many stress syllables for the
Or
line?
each line. So
Yeah.
that means that there's.
It won't ever ask you how many stress syllables are in a stanza.
Oh,
That'd be a
okay.
lot.
Okay.
That'd be a lot.
Because this is like a tried and true. This is iambic tetrameter. We're gonna learn the words here in a second. But it's like they're asking you about the pattern, the named pattern, basically, yeah. Okay, so let's get to that actually. So a foot. A foot is a unit of measurement. A unit of measurement that contains one stressed syllable. A unit of measurement that contains one stressed syllable and at least one unstressed syllable. A unit of measurement that contains at least one stressed syllable, or one stressed syllable and at least one unstressed syllable.
Here.
Like demure, yes, exactly. Okay, so let's divide this into feet using the red marker now. Right now it's divided into syllables. If we were to divide it into feet, we just find the stress and we see the unit of measurement here with the unstressed. So sometimes words are broken up into feet. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 feet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So you find the stressed syllable and then you go with the unstressed syllable. Like it could be the other way around, but if it has one stressed and then at least one unstressed, it's a foot. All right, and this is important because there are different patterns that poets have relied on for hundreds of years. So the first one, an iamb, this is probably the one that you've heard about the most. Who's heard of iambic pentameter? No, it's what Shakespeare wrote in.
Oh.
Wasn't the vast majority of songs I am?
Yeah, all of his sonnets are iambic pentameter, and then a lot of his speeches in his plays are. So iambic pentameter, and I'm just going to use the symbols, is a foot that is unstressed and then stressed. I mean, not pentameter, sorry, this is just iamb. This is the unit of measurement, don't know why I can't write it today, called an iamb. And so if a poem is written like this, we would say it's iambic.
What is that the example?
No, here's the example I want you to use. You ready?
Yeah.
Because I could not stop for death. That's the line for the example. Because I could not stop for death. Yes. Okay, you can hear it, right? You can hear the pirate limp. Which started because I could. Where's the next one?
Not stop. Was for death.
There you go. Iambic.
I feel so smart.
And if we really wanted to, we could put in the unstressed. There we go. You've scanned the line. All right, let's do the next one. A trochee is flipped. A trochee is stressed, unstressed. There's the foot. Oh, I should put it down here.
Oh, wait. I'm behind. I didn't know I knew
Stressed, unstressed.
that. Wait, so what was the example for foot? I missed that.
I didn't give an example for foot. Yeah, I haven't been giving examples for a lot of them because, yeah.
That I just was stuck on foot.
And I just did one example for iamb.
And I am is like
Unstressed, stressed. Okay, trochee, stressed, unstressed, right? So here's your line. Once upon a midnight dreary. The Raven is completely written in trochee. Now here's where meter is tricky because sometimes a very common way that poets break from meter is that the first syllable sometimes will be stressed. Oh, in this case it's fine. Sorry. Once, where's the next one?
oh, pawn is the stress.
Yeah, like that. Where's the next one? The stress.
Night.
Midnight. Yeah, if your dog was named Midnight, you'd say
Midnight.
midnight, right? Not midnight. I stayed up till midnight. Sounds weird. And then where is dreary, right? So where's the syllable there? There we go. What's upon a midnight dreary?
That's so cool. I've never understood syllables.
Well, you got it now. All right, next one. You ready?
That's why I had
This one's called a dactyl. A dactyl is stressed, unstressed, unstressed. Stressed, unstressed, unstressed.
What?
Some of these words are like contentious. Dactyl.
I think they're Latin.
So pretentious though.
Yeah.
Just
I can speak
for a
that.
handful of silver, he left us. Okay, yeah, the dactyls and the anapests and the ones that have more than two kind of do get a little bit tricky sometimes.
This reminds me of the like little poem story thing that we had to write for the AP test. Like the man was getting black pearls for his grandpa.
What AP test?
Oh, when you had to
During
practice to see
summer.
if your keyboard was working.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
Okay, just for a handful of silver he left us. You still hear the sing-songiness, right? So where's the first syllable that is stressed?
wait,
Just. Okay, is for?
or no.
No, it's unstressed and then is
Or,
unstressed. And
Okay.
then hey,
Hand.
stressed and then full unstressed. Is unstressed. Sil is
Silver.
stressed. Ver is unstressed. He is unstressed. Left is stressed. Us is unstressed.
Just for a handful of silver he left us. And you can kind of like test it out and see, does that sound like does that sound natural to say the words that way? A poet is never going to say like, flip it up and pronounce it this way, silver. You know, they're building on our existing language structures. Okay. Next one, anapest. Unstressed, unstressed, stressed, I believe. Yes. This is called an anapest. Unstressed, unstressed, stressed.
This is like high school. Unstressed. It's probably more like stressed, unstressed.
Or just stress away.
unstressed.
Are there any poems?
You know-
that are
oh, yeah.
Stress.
I know one TikTok that's like
Not
slowly
completely.
Wait, and then all of a sudden, go.
Yeah, that's what high school is.
That's what high school.
This is what it's been this year. It's like, okay, I'll give you like one assignment. Then it's like I have 10 assignments in one day and I'm like, I can't do this.
Wait. And then school started and I was like, go.
All right, there are not many poems fully written in anapest. That usually you're just finding certain syllables that are in anapest. So of his bones are coral made is your example. Let me just show you this one. Of his bones are coral made. So you see how it always kind of will flip back into another one. Usually anapest is pretty rare, but this syllable right there, you could say that's an anapest. And you can always say that one foot follows a certain rhythm. You don't have to say that the whole poem is iambic. You can just say, oh, that foot is an anapest. Yes?
How do you tell if like one certain word is stressed?
If it
You
sounds
kind of find the double words, I think.
It's just the two together.
And then you sort of build off of it. So for me, it's like, okay, how would I say this? Would I say of his bones? No, I'd say of his bones. No, of his bones. Like you can kind of feel it, you know, of his bones. And then if I say it that way, no, it's got to be R, right? Of his bones are coral made. And then you kind of just like fall into it a little bit. So you have to say it out loud, or at least say it in your head, like clearly. Yeah, Brooklyn.
Would an example of the anapest be like, was the night before Christmas? Like,
Yes.
is it like,
'Twas the night before
is it stress
Christmas,
like,
and all through the house. Yeah,
is it
Yes.
like
pop ups is?
that's what I need to put down.
I
Was.
didn't even think about that.
I'll put it down later. Okay.
Me too.
Okay, two more. Spondy.
I
know I'm not
Elvis,
supposed to
I have an
say
Elvis
that.
Presley Christmas album.
It's
and
two
somebody-
stresses. Sorry, I'm moving on. Spondy is two stresses. So here's one: slow, fresh, font. I can't hear any unstressed syllables in that. Slow, fresh, font. It's got a marching feel to it. There is not the peg leg, there's just the march, right? I love that Brooklyn. I'm gonna use that forever now, the peg leg thing. Yeah, so it's like every syllable is hit. There are not really poems written in Spondy. I think there's like one that someone did as an experiment, but for the most part, you'll just find Spondy beat. And same with the last one, which is Pyrrhic. Which is just unstressed, and I don't have an example of this because it's very rare.
You can say like why though.
Huh?
Isn't why though like one?
I feel like why though is more of a Spondy. I think so. The only way that you find Pyrrhic is when somebody's been going along at a nice iambic pace, and then they suddenly end the line with two more extra unstressed syllables. You'd be like, oh, there's like a Pyrrhic at the end of that. So usually they're just little aberrations in the line. Okay, let's write down the names for the different number of feet. You ready? I'm going to give them kind of fast. Number 1, monometer. Number 2 feet, dimeter. D-I-meter. 3 feet, can you guess? Trimeter, yes. 4 feet, tetrameter.
This is like the math.
Yeah, 5 feet, what would it be then?
I don't remember.
Pentameter. Pentameter, and that's
And the
again,
next
that's
one,
what Shakespeare wrote in.
Hex-
Hexameter, yeah. Yep. 7 feet, heptameter. H-E-P-T-A.
Oh, that's why they're called heptapods.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a hepapod?
8
Seven.
legs.
Wait.
7 legs, yeah.
Octometer.
And then octometer, yes.
Yay!
And then we stop there, and at that point, the line has gone on so long that it's basically a paragraph. So
At that point, you just don't want to read it.
you're just like, I'm not scanning this anymore. Yeah, Brooklyn.
How would you really tell if it's in like an octometer or the 2 or the 4? Because it couldn't be like divided.
Oh, no, because this has to be a foot. The foot can't include 2 stresses. The only time a foot includes 2 stresses is if it's a Spondy.
Oh.
So you divide it by the number of stresses. So you could just count the stresses in the line and say, oh, it's a hexameter, or is this one, like the dactyl, for example, how many feet does the dactyl have?
1, 2, 4.
So what would it be called?
It would be I scrolled past it.
A tetrameter, yeah. So the way that we would describe it is we'd combine the dactyl with the tetrameter. If the whole poem was in this pattern, we'd say it's dactylic tetrameter. Dactylic tetrameter.
I feel like this is too smart.
So you put the stresses name first, iambic, dactylic. It's never spondaic, but maybe anapestic, and then you would put the number. So this is anapestic trimeter.
My dad with this, and he's gonna be so.
You're gonna sound so smart. It's really, that's one of the fun of talking about poetry, is that like this very simple list of definitions, once you know these, you sound so smart when you talk about
I'm just
poetry.
gonna go
And on the test, when you can identify the pattern, if you're like, oh, this right here, this line right here is a Spondy, and here's why it's important, that like automatically gets you the sophistication point that we're looking for. Like people really love to see that you can scan a poem. There is in the rubric. We haven't talked about the rubric yet, huh?